Okay, let's take a few moments to worship the Supreme One, the Infinite Compassionate One, the Supreme Buddha, before we start the sermon. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. You all may now be seated. So today we're going to have a story dedicated to all those parents, all those mothers out there. Today we're going to talk about the story of the great Arhat Sona. So let's go back in time, back to the Buddha. So one day there was a woman called Sona who got married to her husband, and they lived a pretty happy life. And then when time came, she gave birth to a son, but not just one son. Throughout her middle age, she gave birth to 10 children. So most of her life, she spent nursing these children, raising them up, educating them, and when their time came, also arranged their marriage. So she was a housewife, and her whole life was orbiting her children. So all her friends, everyone who knew her would call her Sona with many children, or many children Sona. So soon, Sona's husband was able to listen to a sermon preached by the Supreme One, and instantly he became a lay follower. From that moment onwards, he observed the 5 precepts to the letter. Not for one day, not for a few days, weeks, months, but for several years he observed and protected his precepts like it was second to life. So soon, due to the merits he has done in the past, he got the idea that he would want to dedicate all his life to the Dharma, want to fulfill the path and become an Arhat. So he decided he wanted to ordain. So when he decided this, he went to his wife. Oh, my beautiful wife, Sona, I have something to tell you. Sona, I would like to ordain, to become a monk, to renunciate, to get rid of all this suffering. I would like to follow the path. Please, give me permission to ordain. Now for a moment, I want you to put yourself in Sona's shoes. So she's a woman who has 10 children, and most of her life she spent looking after these children, right? So now her husband wanted to ordain. Now she knows if her husband ordains, she has no income. She doesn't work, she's a housewife. But she knows that if she tries, she'll be able to find a way to earn money. And anyway, she has 10 children to look after her. So think about this, right? She knows that she's going to be left all alone without money, depending on her children completely. Although it wasn't easy for her to accept, to let him ordain, what she did was, she didn't stop him. She said, yes, dear husband, you can ordain. You can ordain and you can follow the path and you can become an Arhat. But inside, she knew that it wasn't going to be easy for her. But she decided that she's not going to live in regret. She's not going to live in the sorrow that he's going to ordain. She sacrificed her life for her husband. She let her husband go to free himself from all the suffering. She knew that the moment he ordains, she's going to have to work hard. She's going to have to live life by herself without her husband. But that moment, she also changed. She decided, if my husband is going to ordain and he's going to follow the path, listen to the Dharma and free himself, liberate himself, I want to also do the same. So she decided she's going to live a more devoted life. She's going to follow the precepts and protect it, just like her husband did. See, she didn't give up. Just because her husband left her doesn't mean she gave up. She was strong. She didn't need her husband. But after her husband ordained, she had a lot of things, a lot of assets, a lot of wealth, a lot of land, and all these things that she doesn't need. Because she knew if she wanted to be devoted to the path, she knows if she wants to attain this liberation as well, she can't look after all these things. Because that's going to take all of her time, it's going to take all of her effort as well. So she called all her 10 children over. Sons, daughters, you all know that your father renunciated. You know he has ordained to become a monk. So let me turn over all this wealth to you guys, to you, my children. Just give me the bare minimum, just enough for me to survive. I don't need all this land, I don't need all these assets, I don't need all this. Just give me enough to live, and that's enough. So each of her children agreed and said that they're going to take the wealth and they'll support her with what she wants and needs. So the arrangement went well. Everyone was happy with their share, and she had enough support, and she could spend most of her time in religious activities, listening to the Dharma, practicing, chanting, and so on and so forth, doing as much merit she could. But as time passed, she became older. She became more reliant. She became almost a burden to her children. You see, these children weren't religious. These children were against their father's choice of ordination. And like that, they were also against their mother going on this religious path with this religious devotion. They thought that their parents are foolish, that they're leaving all this pleasure behind, all this wealth, this food, all this pleasure behind, and following this path. What's the point? They're fools. In their eyes, their parents were fools. Fools who were mentally unstable with these really random religious traditions and following this path. They were frantics, madmen, almost. So the way they saw their parents changed. All the respect, all the love that they had towards their parents changed. Their mother became a burden to them. Soon after some time, whenever Sona went to her children, their daughter-in-law would whisper to their husband, your mother only gave us a small share, right? So how can we afford to keep her as well? She gave this and this to your other brother. She gave this to your sister. Well, how are we supposed to look after her? She obviously loves this sibling better. Why don't she go to him or her? So soon, every single brother and sister would make up an excuse to not be able to care for their mother. You see, they forgot. They forgot about all the love, the care that their mother had shown to them, given to them. They forgot about all those times where when they needed help, when they needed some sort of support, their mother was by their side, no matter the time, no matter the place. How for all these many years of all the care and attention she gave to them, how even at a small age, she would turn her blood into milk. Each of us have been forgotten. Before we carry on, my question is, have your children forgotten this? Or have you forgotten this as well? Have you forgotten all the qualities that your mother possesses? Or is your mother just a normal person to you now? Don't forget, she was always there for you. So Sona's children saw their mother as an old woman who was a nuisance, who was a burden to them all. Are your parents a burden to you? Are you not able to take care of your parents? Have you forgotten all what they've done to you? How they've helped you, supported you? No matter who they are, no matter what they've done, they're your parents. Are they a nuisance? Don't forget, small children were a nuisance to them as well. But they didn't stop. They didn't stop caring. So, to Sona, the way her children had treated her was painful. Was even more painful than her husband separating from her. It's almost like they stabbed a dagger in her heart. But she uses this as an advantage. She saw that when they did this, she became angry, she became sad, she felt all this regret. And in her mind, all these accusations pop up towards the children. You see, Sona applied the Dharma. She had listened to the Buddha's preaching, and so when this happened, she realized that she had taken what was mother's love, pure love to her children, but in reality, it wasn't like that. It was to do with expectation, to expect their children to do something back. It wasn't unconditional love, it was a conditioned love, self love, that she was being selfish. See, when she brought up her children, she was convinced that as she grew older, that her children will support her. Her children will help her to her very last day. She was completely relying on her children to support her. She thought that all the things I've done in the past, every time they cried, every time they came back home hurt, or every time that she helped them, that in the future they'll do the same for me. They'll help me when I need their help. She assumed that the gratitude, the appreciation in their affairs would be her reward for all this. She thought that her children will help her, even though she thought that she was giving unconditional love to them, a motherly love. She applied the Dharma and found out that, no, see, here's the proof. I rely on them. I did all this so I can be happy in the future. She thought that she had used her children as an investment, or even as an insurance against fear and loneliness when she became older. The more she contemplated on this, the more happier she got. Each time it's proving the enlightened one's Dharma. And then the idea came to her mind. While I rely on my children on wealth, possessions, and all this, it's in the same way that an ascetic relies on his virtue. You see, this wasn't a thought that came instantly. Through time, it grew stronger. Through time, it became a feeling that was very strong and powerful. Due to this, she was brought to the decision that she would like to enter the order of nuns, to follow the path that her husband took, so she can finally develop the quality of selfless love, a love that she would never be able to give if she stayed at home or she didn't follow the path. So she thought that she gave this selfless love to her children, but she found out, no, this wasn't selfless, it's a selfish love. So I'm going to ordain and find a way to spread this selfless love to every being. Anyway, what's the point of her staying at home? When she stays at home, all she going to receive is just blame, and she'll be shouted at by her children. Soon, contemplating of all of this, contemplating all the Dharma that the Buddha had preached, soon the colors, the vibrant colors of lay life started to fade. Soon it all became grey and dull. But every time she remembered the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, her husband, the other nuns, that picture became more and more vibrant, more clear. It became bright and beautiful. So she decides, you know what? Staying here is not going to give me anything. It's there. It's after I ordain that I'll be happy. Let me become a nun in the Supreme One's Bhikkhuni Sasana. So let's go reflect back onto her life. She gave birth to 10 children who she loved very dearly, who she used to spend all of her time protecting, teaching, and nurturing them. But soon she became older. Soon she became an old woman. But she realized that, you know what? Me doing all this has been useless. Let me ordain in the Sangha. And let me follow the path to do something with my life. But joining the Mahasangha wasn't everything that she thought it would be. Because, to be honest, most of us would think that the moment she ordained, she's going to practice the Dharma and she's going to attain Nibbana. She's going to attain her liberation. The end, full stop. That's it. But it wasn't like that. Even though she expected it, it wasn't like that for her. So Venerable Sona soon came to realize after ordaining, she had taken this self-love with her on her journey as well. She realized, having ordained at a very old age, she found it very hard to stop old habits. You see, she had a dozen of habits and other things that were obstacles. Obstacles as no one else does them like that. She was used to doing things a certain way while the other nuns did it all differently. Therefore, the noble nuns, the noble friends, the Kalyana Mitras would go up to her and criticize her, tell her to not do it, tell her to do it like this instead. Soon she almost found out that, soon she thought that she was almost like a target for criticism, target for people to correct her. Those people, those who are older, but mostly by those who are much younger than her. I would like you to imagine someone younger than you, not 1-2 years, but say 5-10 years younger than you, criticizing you, telling you not to do something, telling you to do something. How would you feel? Is it something that you enjoy, something that you're like, yeah, I should be listening to? Unfortunately, we all have pride. Till we become an arhat, we all have pride. And remember, right? Venerable Sona was newly ordained. She had pride. So you can imagine when she is criticized by a younger nun, she kind of may feel hurt. Soon Venerable Sona found out that the life that she imagined isn't what she's experiencing now. She probably thought that in a few days I'll probably become an arhat and then I can live the rest of my lives happily ever after. Unfortunately, she discovered that achieving the noble attainments weren't that easy. That the order of the nuns wasn't the paradise that she expected, that she dreamt of. Because she first thought that her children would bring her security and love and all this, when it didn't. And she also thought that ordination as a nun will bring her immediate peace. Like that moment she's going to be in peace. But unfortunately, she found out that that wasn't the case. She found out that what I'm doing is wrong. There has to be something wrong that I'm doing. You see, everyone else is happy and peaceful, but I feel that I am not. You see, she didn't find faults in the Dharma. She didn't find faults in the Buddha. She didn't find faults in the Sangha. She found faults in herself. See, she didn't wish the problem was easier. She wished that she was better. She thought that there has to be something else. You see, I should be practicing harder. I need to practice this path more vigorously. I need to strive. She accepted the fact that she has to make a tremendous effort. Not only because she's old and she only has few years left of her life, but she needs to find this happiness within. Not at any moment did she think this path was too difficult. She never thought that the problem was too hard. She never wished for the problem to be easier. She wished herself to get better. It became clear to her that she has to fight harder to win this battle. That her fight right now was too weak. She's losing more than she's gaining, so she has to fight harder. She realized she has to do more work. And remember, she was an old woman. Her memory wasn't as good as it was when she was younger, right? So, but that didn't stop her. That didn't stop her from practicing. Her memory may not be as good as the others, but that didn't stop her from practicing the path. She made effort to memorize, to learn, to understand the Dharma. See, we know that for people like Venerable Kema and Venerable Sariputta, the Dharma came to them like this. But for Venerable Sona, she had to work harder. She had to put in the effort. It's funny because it's almost like a bank. The more you put in, the more you can take out. You see, Venerable Sariputta and Venerable Kema put in a lot in the past. Put in a ton in the past. And so they could take a ton back. Venerable Sona strived, put all that effort in, And so he knew that she's going to get it back out. So that day was the day she changed. That was a turning point in her life. She woke up next morning with a sense of urgency. I will attain Nibbana. I will practice my path. So she would pass entire nights, entire days sitting, walking, meditating. And even though she's old and her body is weak and frail, she only took the amount of sleep that her body needed, the minimal sleep. You see, in the monastery that she stayed in, on the lower floor, there was a hole, a big hole. You see, when she realized she wasn't sleepy, or when she realized that she couldn't go to sleep, she didn't just lay in bed, wait for sleep to come. Just like superheroes train when everyone is asleep, just like successful people train while everyone else is asleep, Venerable Sona went into this hole. Remember, it's dark, right? In the night, and meditated. She walked from one end to the other, using the pillars as guidance to make sure she doesn't stumble and trip on unseen, invisible objects. Whether it was day, whether it's night, it didn't make an effect on her. Whether there was light, whether it's not light, whether it's raining outside, whether it's sunny, whether it's cold, whether it's hot, whether she was hungry, whether she's not hungry, it didn't matter. She practiced the path. In her mind, it was like, even if the world ended, I will practice the path. I will find my liberation. That doesn't mean she didn't do her chores. That didn't mean she didn't do all her duties. She did her chores, her duties to the letter. She gave it not just her 100%, she gave it the 101%. Due to all this practicing, she was able to bring the momentum. She started to understand the Dharma, and she was bringing herself up the ladder. So one day, all the nuns in the monastery decided that they are going to go around begging for alms. And they told Venerable Sona to stay back and do a favor and heat up some water so they can use to bathe themselves, to wash their bodies. So Venerable Sona, following their instructions, took a big cauldron and put some water in it. She put the cauldron onto the stove and sat there. The moment she sat, she started to contemplate the Dharma. She was able to contemplate on the true nature of the five aggregates. She saw them as anicca, dukkha, anatta. And by contemplating more and more and more and more, remember, the world is made of causes and effect, right? The causes make the result. This moment was a result. And after contemplating on all of this, she expelled all the cankers from her heart. Right then and there, she became an arahant. At that moment, sitting by this cauldron of water, she hasn't lit the fire yet. Just sitting there by the fire, she attained arhatship. Now let's go back to the point when I said that this was a result. That moment was a result. Her meditation becoming that strong was a result. She had many causes behind it. All those days and nights she practiced. All of these are almost like a rung on a ladder. Every time she practiced. Because you can imagine, we're talking about a normal human being, like you and me. We're not born meditators. Well, no one's born a meditator. She practiced. Who knows, she may have practiced the first day for only 5 minutes. And that's all she could have done. Remember, you've been told to meditate for 10 minutes, right? The question is, do you still do it? Venerable Sona back at that time did it. She may have practiced for the 10 minutes, and you may have practiced for months. And soon the 10 became 15, 15 became half an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, through the night. And all this was the causes. Every single time each of these were stepping stones for her to go forward. Each of these were the next rung on the ladder, making her go up the stages. She put the causes together, and that gave the result. Now the moment she became an arhat, she knew in a few moments that the other nuns will come back and see the pot of water and see there's no fire and start to blame her and scold her for not heating the water up. And so when these nuns came to her and asked about the hot water, they saw that there's no fire, and so that water is probably cold. So most of them were like, we told this old lady, we told her to heat up this hot water, but she can't follow that. How are we supposed to help her? But then Venerable Sona answered, my dear sisters, if you want hot water, take it from the cauldron. You see, they knew that Venerable Sona was a person who observed and protected the precepts. So they knew that she won't be lying. Now think about this, right? How many people could go up to you and say, you know what, I know you're not lying, and trust every word that comes out of your mouth? Can they? But they trusted in Venerable Sona. So they were surprised and thought, how can this be heated? But they knew that she wouldn't lie, and so some of them went up to this cauldron and put their hand into the water and found out it was very warm. Seeing that there's no fire, they knew that something had changed in her. And looking at her tranquil, calm, serene face, they knew that she had done it. She had achieved liberation. So each of the nuns who were younger than her, younger in the order, not in age, in the order of ordination, bowed down and worshipped her, asking her, begging her for forgiveness. And so did the ones older than her, asked for forgiveness. So these nuns went to the Buddha and told the Buddha, look at what Venerable Sona did. We told her to boil some water, and when we come back she became an arhat. And so the Buddha preached the Dhammapada. Yo che vassa satan jive appasang amatang padam ekahang jivitang seyo passato amatam padam. Which meant, though one should live 100 years not comprehending the truth, yet better indeed is a single day of life of one who comprehends the sublime truth. So it's better to understand the Dharma for one moment, for one day, than it is to live 100 years without it. Than to live a century. Living a century without understanding Dharma is worthless. It's better to understand Dharma for one day. So when the time came when the Buddha was handing out the titles, he said, the foremost nun who practiced vigorously on her path is my daughter, Sona. She practiced day in, day out, through the night, using the pillars as guides. She was given the title, the nun who practiced vigorously. So it started with many children Sona to vigorously practice Sona. You see, you can imagine that being called a person with many children was almost like a really silly nickname. That it may be a nickname that she didn't even like, but she didn't change her nickname. The nickname was given to her. When she didn't like being called many children Sona, to be honest, she couldn't do anything to change it. But the moment she became an arhat, and the moment the Buddha gave her a title, many children Sona had vanished from everyone's mind, and now it was the nun who practiced vigorously, Venerable Sona. So anyway, she describes her life and saying, I bore 10 children in this body, in this physical frame of mine. When I was old and frail, I went up to a bhikkhuni. She gave me a discourse on the teaching, on the aggregates, sense bases, elements. I heard the Dharma discourse from her, and I shaved my hair and went forth. And when I was still a Sona Theri, I purified the divine eye. With a one-pointed mind well composed, I became an arhat. Immediately I was relieved, quenched the end of clinging. The 5 aggregates are fully understood. They stand cut off at the roots. May curse be upon you, O wretched aging. Now there is no more rebecoming. Now tell me, where did age come into this? Where did the Buddha say if you're above this so-and-so age, you cannot attain Nibbana? Whether you're a child, whether you're a teenager, whether you're an adult, whether you're in your mid-30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, it doesn't matter. If Venerable Sona could attain enlightenment, so can you. So for all those mothers out there, all those fathers, all those people who think that they are too old to practice the path, think twice. Venerable Sona did it. For all those mothers who think, I have too many children to take care of, I've got this child is this old, this child is this old, this and this and this and this. All those excuses. Remember, Venerable Sona had all of that. I doubt that there's many people who have 10 children to look after. But Venerable Sona was able to attain Nibbana. Venerable Sona practiced very hard and was able to become an arhat. So what's stopping you? And there's also one more thing I want to emphasize. Her husband wanted to ordain. Remember, I don't think that they had a bad relationship. To be honest, her husband was a lay disciple of the Buddha. Observed the precept and protected it. I doubt that they had a bad relationship. But when the time came that he asked for ordination, she didn't say no. She found it difficult, but she was able to sacrifice her life for him. She was able to let him go. Let him go on his path and let him liberate. I'm going to stay back and try my hardest. Even after she sacrificed her life to... It is a sacrifice though, because she's agreeing that he's going to leave, and so she's going to work harder. She's going to have a different life than what she had. And she literally sacrificed all of that. Because she knew that the moment he ordained, my life will change. Every pleasure that I've had in the past is now going to change. I'm going to have to work harder or depend on others. She sacrificed her life. She sacrificed all her pleasures. She sacrificed all her free time. She sacrificed everything. And said, dear husband, go and ordain. Liberate yourself. Be free. I'm going to stay back behind with all our children. But I'm not going to let go either. I'm not going to let you go, and I'm not going to stay back weeping, lamenting, and sitting, doing nothing. I'm going to also practice my hardest. I'm going to observe the precepts and protect them. See, that is so simple. Like we've heard so many times. If it's easy to do, it's easy not to do. Observing the precepts may seem tedious when you do it every single week, but it isn't that simple. It is a great merit. And that's how her path started, remember? She started by observing the precepts and protecting them. And look where she ended. In a state where nothing can shake her. She's unshakable. Let the sky fall, but nothing's going to affect her. So for everyone who thinks that they are unable to attain Nibbana because of old age, because of children, because of assets, because their husbands are gone, their wives are gone, think twice. Have Venerable Sona as your inspiration, as your role model. She could have done it, so can I. See, she's a human just like you and I. She attained arhatship. What's stopping us? That brings us to the end of the story of Venerable Sona. So remember, your time is precious. Make sure every second counts. Before we conclude, let's take a few moments to transfer merits that we've accumulated. Let's take a moment to transfer the merits we've all acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, chanting Purith, listening to the Dharma, and engaging in various meritorious deeds today. So first and foremost, let's remind ourselves how incredibly fortunate we are to be in receipt of the Lord Buddha's teaching, and with immense gratitude, let's transfer the merits to the Bhikshu, Bhikshunis, Upasakas, who since time immemorial have protected and preserved the sublime teaching of the Buddha and passed it down to the generation of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka. We should thankfully avail us today to study, to understand, to comprehend the Dharma. Let us also take a moment to transfer the merits required to all the members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world, including the chief prelates of all the chapters who dedicate their lives to the noble path and commit themselves to the betterment of all sentient beings. Let us not forget that among them would be monks and nuns resident in your local temples and nunneries, who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to Guru Swami Nanse and all the other monks resident in this monastery, as well as the Anagarikas attached to the monastery. Let us all take a moment to transfer merits and express our gratitude to those who make great efforts to disseminate the teachings of the Buddha, be that by translating these sermons, sharing them out with others, inviting others to join them. May through the power of the merits, if any of them have been born on the willful plane, may they redeem themselves and be born on the blissful plane. May through the power of the merits, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble way for path, and attain supreme nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits acquired to all our devotees, friends of the monastery, who for sake of merits continue to sustain the Mahasangha. This includes every one of you who contribute to the construction of the monastery, to those of you who provide the Mahasangha with shelter, alms, robes, medicine, as well as those who pass on their know-how, extend their well wishes. May the power of the merits, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble way forward path, and attain supreme nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to our mothers, fathers, husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nieces, nephews, our elders, friends and acquaintances, employers, employees, and to all those who have helped us, support us, assist us in any way, shape, or form by the power of these merits. May they be healed of any physical or mental ailments and overcome the obstacles in their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble forward path, and attain supreme nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to the devas, brahmas, spirits, demons, primarily the Sakradeva, as well as the numerous gods and deities who have committed to protect and fulfill the Sambuddha Sasana. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to our guardian deities who keep watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May through the power of the merits, may they prosper in divine power and wisdom, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble path, and attain supreme bliss nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to our ancestors who have predeceased us, to all those who have been our friends, families, acquaintances in this infinitely long journey in samsara, and to those who have helped us, support us, assist us in any way they could. Let's transfer these merits, and let's also transfer the merits to the members of the armed forces as well as the police force who have sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. May all those who lost their lives in war, be their friend or foe, rejoice in the merits we require today. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to all those who lost their lives in natural calamities such as tsunamis, earthquakes, landslides, pandemics, reminding ourselves that among them will be those who have been our friends and family to us in this long journey samsara. Let's take a moment to transfer these merits to them. May the power of the merits, if any of them have been born on the willful plane, may they redeem themselves and be born on the blissful plane. May they abstain from their meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble forward path, attain supreme nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Finally, let's all resolve, with the power and blessing of all the merits we acquire today, we bear witness the event of many hundreds of thousands of arhats in this blessed land. And finally, may through the power of all the merits we acquire today, you and I, everyone who made this program success, become Arhat Nwanse, or Arhat Mahin Nwanse in this very life in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We now conclude the sermon there. May the blessings of the Noble Chilpa be with you all.